So I was asked a question on my experience with prayer at the moment. So at the moment, I'm doing something which I'll just share, which is like there's one way to let the ego. It's only one mechanism, canceling beliefs and prayer, of letting the ego go of its belief systems, and one of them is actually what I'm doing now, which I call intensive prayer. Until the ego is forced to let go of things through just bloody-minded, non-stop, repetitious prayer. And I mean, we're talking, hours and hours non-stop. So, and I'll give an example of that. Like I have a situation with a tenant, and I was just surrendering the situation to God, um, and just and praying forgiveness, transcendence, and miracles. I was doing it for hours and hours and hours, like this situation with my tenant and EDF Electric. And, I was just doing it. I was just like, the ego is like absolutely annoyed that you're doing this boring prayer for hours on end. And then at a certain point, the bliss came. It was like the ego suddenly goes, I can't hold on. I can't hold on to this drama any longer. I'm just so bored of this prayer. It's just horrific. And then the ego let go of the boredom as well. Like I was moaning about the boredom and just doing this prayer over and over again. And then suddenly there was bliss. I knew when the bliss came that that was a shift. I'd managed to, David Hawkins talks about it, you have to go through the tests of the ego. Like it complains about prayer, then it can't stand doing prayer for hours. Um, then then it says it's too bored to do the prayers, but you still go on praying. And then suddenly it lets go and the bliss comes in. So it's kind of a heavy heart. I've had that before. I usually only do it under extreme circumstances. Otherwise, it's just so torturing to the ego. It just doesn't want to let go of things. It rather would just think about things or something, or worry about things like tenants and finances. So it let go and the bliss came. And intuitively, I know from the past when the bliss comes, usually something has happened in the universe because I've let go of that. It's the belief in me that's attracting or manifesting limiting situations, shall we say, in my life. So then I had the thing to call up this charity helpline, and I did. I got through, and I know this happens. It's like God arranges all the right people in situations. This lovely lady picked up the phone. He said, look, they're threatening to take legal action against me, EDF Electric, and send the bailiffs around. So I told her all my fears. I go, am I going to get a bailiff around tomorrow knocking on my door, forcing entry and grabbing everything in my house? And she goes, no, don't worry about it. They can knock, but they can't enter unless you give them permission. Nothing they can do. I don't know, okay. So everything just, and it was like the answer to the prayer came as I was willing. And I know from my experience that, I mean, that's one mechanism, letting go, intense prayer. I mean, extreme prayer until the ego lets go. But that's just one instance. And I know that if I don't let go, if my ego haven't gone through all the stuff of letting go, then the miracles don't happen. It's like the situation remains stuck. I don't get an idea of who to call. And even if I call someone, I get the wrong person. It gives me the wrong advice. So it all synchronizes. So I do recommend with health problems, especially like if I've got some back pain, I cancel my belief in back pain. I'm an infinite being subject only to what I hold in mind. In the early videos I did, I just said, I didn't say how often. I didn't do it that often. That's probably why most of my illnesses took 3 to 5 years, because I just did them a few times a day. But now, after many years, I've got more experience. And I know that one of the mechanisms that's crystallized for me is it's a tool. If you've got something horrible in your life, you can develop this tool of just canceling it or praying for hours. You have to go through phases, like your ego's furious that it's praying and it can't do something else. Then the ego eventually goes, it's bored. Please stop, I'm bored. And then you still go on, carry on praying. And then finally, a shift comes. And it could take hours. It depends how heavy the thing is that you're holding on to. It might even take days to get rid of something or longer. Anyway, that's just a recent example. I just wanted to share that's a very recent one. I was doing that yesterday and had that miracle just with intense prayer of a surrendering situation to divinity, to God. Non-stop for hours. It sounds, the ego hates it, but it is a tool and it does work in my experience. So I'll just stop there on application of prayer. Let me just stop the video and press stop.